The second signing of the summer as winger, Federico Chiesa, joins from Juventus in a £12.5 million deal. Hi there, good evening. There's a lot of shuffling of the papers here tonight. Welcome along to the transfer show. As you can see, I'm joined by Dharma Sheth, James Savundra and Mark McAdam with just under 28 hours to go until tomorrow's 11 o'clock deadline. And there's still plenty of deals to be done.
I can say that Ivan will not play on Saturday.
And let's see how it plays out right at the death, maybe.
We have to sign one winger, at least one winger. We have to sign one winger to complete the squad.
It's not just money, you understand, it's the availability at this late stage.
Then we always decide what's best for the club, and then we will make the decisions, and then the public will see it.
A mistake now is the worst thing that can happen.
And I'm happy to ask more questions about Ivan next time we're sitting here.
Decision day for Victor Osimhen. Will he be a Chelsea player by tomorrow's 11 p.m. deadline? Look at these scenes in Italy. Scott McTominay arriving ahead of his move to Napoli. It's how we all arrive every day at work.
Speak for yourself.
I am. Right, let's start with Liverpool then, because we do have a done deal. Mark, Arne Slot completing. It's his second signing as Liverpool boss, isn't it?
And it could have been so different for Liverpool this summer. Martin Zubimendi turned Liverpool down. There was talks about Anthony Gordon at the start of the window. We know they've got Mamardashvili, who won't appear at Anfield until next summer, but they have got someone who could be a really significant player for Arne Slot and Liverpool this season. Someone that's played at the elite level, someone that's played in Serie A and the Champions League. And at 2 o'clock today, we got confirmation that they had signed Federico Chiesa. And you can see him speaking there and looking at the silverware at Anfield and just getting a feeling for his new surroundings. We understand the deal to be worth £10 million with £2.5 million in add-ons, and he will sign a 4-year contract. Like we say, proven elite level player. Now, we know that there has been some injury concerns over the last couple of years, but ACLs are quite common in football these days. And with the technology and science at play, there's obviously been no concerns with regards to Liverpool. This is a player that they've been tracking since his Fiorentina days. And when you look at the likes of Neto going to Chelsea for £50-odd million, for them to get a player at this price, I think shows exceptional business at this stage. Of course, he's now got to do the business on the pitch. But what it does offer Arne Slot is an array of options. He's got the versatility to play on the left or the right. Potentially could free up other players that play out wide to come infield as well. So he'll offer that dynamic. And I think under Arne Slot, he can thrive. This is the type of player that Arne Slot wants to work with. This is the type of player that Liverpool fans want to see. And at 26 years old, he's in his prime. Peak performance right now, and could be a really important part of Liverpool this season. So, yeah, always good to start the show with confirmation of a deal. It happened earlier on this afternoon. Liverpool fans, I know they've been waiting very patiently for players to come through the door. They finally got someone who they're going to see at some stage this season. And, of course, Federico Chiesa has been speaking to Liverpool FC TV today. Here's what he's had to say about the move.
It's been so far a great day, and I'm so happy to be a Liverpool player. When Richard Hughes called me and he said, "Do you want to join Liverpool?" and the coach called me, I said yes immediately, because I know the history of this club. I know what it represents to the fan. And so I'm so happy, and I can't wait to get started.
As you say, it has happened quite quickly. From what you said there, was it an easy decision to make?
It was for a lot of reasons, and because I felt immediately that the people who I talked to put a lot of faith and trust in me, and that is what I wanted. And so it's really great to be here. It's a dream come true for me to play for Liverpool.
And a dream to play in the Premier League, I'm sure. And just one other line to bring you as well, Vicky, on Liverpool. Their number 2 goalkeeper, Kelleher, they have rejected an offer from Nottingham Forest for the player. It's an unwelcome offer. They don't have any interest in selling the stopper. And we know that Nuno
Because of
Espirito.
Marmadashvili, perhaps that's why people's minds are thinking, hang on a minute, you know, could he be, I guess.
Yes, of course. But they don't want to sell him. He's a part of the first-team squad. He'll play this season, but we know that Nuno Espirito Santo is in the market for a goalkeeper at Nottingham Forest, so one to keep an eye on for deadline day for sure.
All righty. Talking of refusing offers, let's get to it then. Mark Gay and Newcastle and Crystal Palace. Who's going to give first here? What needs to happen in this to actually make him happy, the player happy, and perhaps the club's happy?
Well, there's been multiple bids that have gone in from Newcastle to Crystal Palace. The last one, £65 million plus £5 million in add-ons. That would be a record fee that Newcastle would spend on a single player. But so far, and as we expect them to do tomorrow, Palace remain firm on their valuation for the player. They want more than £70 million for Mark Gahey in this transfer window. They do not want to lose a player who they've just named as first-team captain of Crystal Palace. Really disappointing start to the season after all the momentum they built up the back end of last year under Oliver Glasner. Those involved in the deal feel like Parish does not want to sell. Steve Parish does not want to sell what he describes as a superstar player unless he gets superstar money. At this moment in time, Crystal Palace don't feel like they've got superstar money for their centre-back. And Crystal Palace are in a bit of a centre-back crisis as it is, even if Mark Gahey stays, because Joachim Andersen has gone to Fulham. That felt like good business for the money they got for a player at the age he was. But Shadi Riyad, who they brought in the summer from Barcelona, he suffered a potentially really bad knee injury on Tuesday night. We'll speak to Oliver Glasner tomorrow and find out just how bad that is. So at this moment in time, they can't afford to let Mark Gahey leave. And all the experience that's left the Crystal Palace dressing room this summer already, Michael Elise, Jordan Ayew, Sam Johnson, he'll be confirmed as a Wolves player tomorrow. They really don't want to lose another senior player in the form of Mark Gahey, and that is why they've been so firm on keeping hold of somebody who's become an England star this summer.
What was, just before you asked, Mark, what was interesting for me is Newcastle went in 4 times for Mark Gahey, and for a club to do that, surely there would have been some encouragement in some quarters for them to believe that maybe a deal could be done. Hence why it's admirable of Crystal Palace on the one hand as well, because they've stood firm on their valuation. You just wonder, with 2 years left on his contract, if this situation is going to arise again next summer, how much money they'll be able to command for Mark Gahey then. Because the issue they've got at the minute is he's at his absolute pomp at the moment with regard to valuation as well. He's come off the back of Euro 2024, played brilliantly, he was in many people's teams of the tournament. And so, valuation-wise, is this the maximum it is going to be? Unless he signs a new contract and arranges with Crystal Palace, right, give us another year or sign a new longer-term contract, but in return, it's that old release clause situation. We'll put this release clause into your contract and then we'll be able to deal on our terms more than having to be worried that, oh, he's only got a year left or he's got 2 years left. Do we need to deal now or do we need to deal later, or should we stand firm?
Yeah, you make a good point, Dharmesh. In terms of Newcastle, 28 hours, we just said it, they haven't got long, have they, to explore other options?
Yeah, this is the thing that perhaps Newcastle fans will be most frustrated at, is they've spent so much of the summer trying to pursue a player that ultimately it seems like, at this stage, they can't get.
Yeah.
And it leaves them with very limited time to try and go and find a centre-back who Eddie Howe thinks will improve that starting 11. And that's 2 things that Eddie Howe has said consistently over the course of this summer. They won't sign anyone just for the sake of it. It has to be someone that improves the squad and the starting 11. And they will not be held to ransom financially. You know, when they first went into the football club, you had the takeover from the Saudis, and every single time they went to try and sign a player, there was a Newcastle tax, and therefore they walked away from the deal. And this is clearly a very similar situation here. They are looking at it thinking, actually, this is not going to work financially. We know that they have to be conscious of PSR. We saw that at the end of June, where they sold multiple players to try and make sure they fitted into the PSR requirements, and financially they didn't break the rules. We know that that is a constant problem for them whilst they try and grow and build that football club. But I think you look at this situation and you think this isn't ideal. This isn't the side that got into the Champions League, not last season but the season before. This isn't the side we're seeing operate in the transfer window with the ambitions to be one of the elite clubs in the Premier League, to challenge for the title one day. They are not operating that way. You look at what they've done so far this summer. Will Osula from Sheffield United. Lloyd Kelly on a free transfer. We know that Lewis Hall has been converted from a loan into an obligation permanent signing. but they haven't hit this window in any form. Now, there may be people within the club that say, well, we lost Dan Ashworth, Paul Mitchell's come in. Paul Mitchell has a reputation for getting great deals done and signing fantastic players, but we're yet to see that at Newcastle. So it feels like there's a lot of pressure on Paul Mitchell to pull a rabbit out of a hat between now and tomorrow's deadline. Otherwise, Newcastle fans will be looking at this window thinking, this is not what we want. We are not heading in the direction we need to go and challenge where we want to challenge.
So Crystal Palace not looking to sell Mark Gay with 28 hours or so left in this transfer window, but Crystal Palace looking to strengthen their ranks as well defensively. We mentioned Joachim Andersen departing the football club. Well, Max Sens-Lacroix, he's flown to the UK today, completed a medical at Crystal Palace, and Palace have agreed an initial £18 million fee with Wolfsburg to sign him. It could rise to £21 million if you include the add-ons. So brought in to replace Andersen, a player who's worked with Oliver Glasner before in Germany as well. So that will just shore up that defence a little bit at a time where Crystal Palace fans will feel like there's a lot of experience leaving. They're bringing in a very talented defender now.
OK. Let's turn our attentions to Chelsea, because we do expect them to be one of the busiest, surely, in this last 28 hours or so. You've been furiously writing and typing, and the Red Book's
shopping
out.
list,
I
my
just want to
shopping
say
list. I need
this
to
is...
get to the supermarket.
You can put a few carrots down there as well. Look, this is obviously almost like the deadline day itself, isn't it, for Victor Osimhen, because this needs to be sewn up, this deal, one way or the other. What's going on?
It does. You've got to remember that the Saudi Pro League transfer window shuts on Monday, so there's a little bit of leeway there. But, of course, this deadline for the European football is tomorrow night, and things are coming to a head at the minute. Where we stand with this at the moment is our understanding that the Saudi Pro League side, Al Ahly, believe that they have increased, I wouldn't say confidence, but a little bit more hope that maybe they can convince Victor Osimhen to join them. They have a bid worth 70 million euros on the table, which is likely to be accepted by Napoli, but they don't have an agreement with the player. And what they're trying to do now is trying to convince Victor Osimhen to come to the Saudi Pro League. Now, at the moment, there are officials from Al Ahly in Italy talking with Victor Osimhen's representatives about the potential deal and the proposal that they would be willing to offer. So aside of that transfer fee, according to Sky in Italy, the proposal to Osimhen would be a 4-year contract worth 30 million euros a year. 30 million euros a year.
You said it twice.
Yeah. It's a lot of money.
It is.
And what in exchange as well the Victor Osimhen's camp would want would be an achievable exit clause within that 4 years, because his agent has been quite vocal on social media earlier on this week. He said there needs to be a bit of respect, there needs to be a bit of balance when it comes to Victor Osimhen. Everyone is talking about, oh, let's just ship him off to Saudi Arabia. He's a fantastic player. He came 8th in the Ballon d'Or. He's still got many things to prove and to do in European football and in European football's top 5 leagues. Unfortunately, the European clubs are finding it very, very difficult to come to a resolution with Napoli and with Victor Osimhen to try and get a deal over the line. Chelsea, we know, have been working on a deal. However, the wages are a massive stumbling block, let alone the transfer fee. And just to give you an idea, Sky in Italy were also reporting that Chelsea's initial proposal towards Victor Osimhen fell way short of the kind of wages that Osimhen would want. And as it stands, Osimhen doesn't want to take a cut.
And Chelsea want to cut everyone's wages, it would seem.
Of course they do.
But huge deal,
look,
long deal.
I know Chelsea have come in for a lot of criticism about the way they do their business, but it seems that what they're trying to do is, yes, they've got these long-term contracts for some of these players, but they're buying them young, and they may not be paying as much as some of their Premier League rivals, but what they are trying to do is almost incentive-based. You come in, we'll give you a long-term contract. The wages might not be as high as you want them to be, but if you play well, we will renegotiate. Look what has happened with Cole Palmer. He will have come in on a long-term contract and maybe would have been able to get better money elsewhere, but he decided to go to Chelsea. They have since renegotiated his contract. Everyone was saying, why have they extended it to another 9 years or whatever it was? Well, the fact of the matter is that he performed so well. He performed so well for England over the Euros that was a reward for Cole Palmer. So there you go.
But they've also got bonuses as well. They deal with it in incentives as well, don't they, Chelsea? So it's not just the short salary, 70 grand a week.
Those talks are continuing
salary.
to see if they can convince Victor Osimhen, actually, we can't pay what you're on at the moment, but maybe we can come to some sort of arrangement whereby we can incentivise your contract. That's aside of what they would have to do with Napoli as well, because Al Ahly have got 70 million euros on the table. Now, in an ideal world, Napoli will want in excess of £100 million, because when they renegotiated Osimhen's contract, they put a release clause in of well over 100 million, thinking, yes, there will be a European club that will come in and pay that money. But what are we? We're hours away from this window closing, and no club is going to come anywhere near his wages, number one, and the kind of transfer fee that Napoli would want. So Napoli are in a bit of a position here, but they know that they might have to do business because they want him out of the club now. Romelu Lukaku's come in, but Osimhen is still there, training away from the first-team squad on over £200,000 a week. That is not an ideal scenario for Napoli to be in. So Chelsea's ideal scenario would be, let's do a loan. They might move now to maybe loan with an obligation. Napoli, do you want to do business? Because it's not only what Napoli will agree with Chelsea, it's going to be the will of the player as well. And if Victor Osimhen decides, I don't want to go to Saudi, which is what Napoli's ideal destination for him would be at this moment in time, then they might need to negotiate and go on to a lower transfer fee and lower wages. But
we could do an hour long on Victor Osimhen alone, but we haven't got time. Right. If Chelsea don't get him, have they got other options, Mark?
Yes, well, you know, we know that all football clubs, particularly at this stage, will have multiple targets that they're looking at, and they will be doing due diligence in the background about specific deals that they could action should their primary target not happen. Now, financially, as Damesh has explained there is a lot of work to make that one happen. I think it's also worth pointing out as well, if he were to go to the Saudi Pro League, for tax reasons, it would be difficult to come back to European football. And that may be in his thinking as well. If he leaves the Saudi Pro League within 2 years, the tax rules change. So he'd have to pay back a lot more money in tax, which would affect his thinking. So one thing to bear in mind. In terms of targets, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we know that he is into the final year of his Everton contract, and we know that he's one of the highest paid players at Goodison Park. So therefore, that could be an interesting name to keep an eye on. Ivan Toney. We know that we will be talking about Ivan Toney every hour for the next 28 hours, whatever it is. We will be talking about him regularly. We know that he's not going to be involved this weekend for Brentford, whatever happens with regards to his future. He's into the final year. Premier League player, could do the business immediately. No gelling in period, no time to settle in West London. It could be perfect for Chelsea. The other player that is on their shopping list, but perhaps is very unlikely to happen at this stage, Aston Villa's John Duran. And one of the reasons being that Aston Villa would find it difficult to replace a player of his calibre at this late stage. So they're the four names that we understand to be on Chelsea's shopping list, and in the order that we've discussed them as well. So, yeah, there are other players they're looking at.
OK, and James, I want to bring you in here. If Toney doesn't go to Chelsea...
Well, Brentford are preparing for that. The fact that Ivan Toney could see out his contract at Brentford. That is why this was felt like the summer, that they could get money for him, because there's a danger he leaves for free next summer. There's a danger he signs a pre-contract agreement with a European club in January as well. Now, Osimhen's decision about whether he wants to go to Chelsea or Al Ahly, that will have an impact on Ivan Toney as well, because if Al Ahly don't get Osimhen, then they may push harder to get Ivan Toney. And as Damesh said, the Saudi window closed on Monday, so they still have some days to do business, which may explain what Thomas Frank says. We'll hear from him in 1 second. He's not featured in any of the matchday squads so far this season. Gail Davis spoke to him today for us for Sky Sports News and tried to get a line. He's been very difficult to pin down this week, Thomas Frank, but here is what he's had to say about his star man, Ivan Toney.
I can say that Ivan will not play on Saturday. And I can say that I'm very happy to speak about the players that played last night, or the players that will play tomorrow. Ivan is training well and in good spirit, and I'm happy to ask more questions about Ivan next time we're sitting here.
That cleared that up then. Right, Damesh, question about Jadon Sancho. Could he be a Chelsea player tomorrow, do you think?
The latest information I've got, I was given 3 words by contact: still in balance. Ooh. Now, Chelsea and Juventus are still pushing to sign Jadon Sancho. That much is clear. While Juventus are keen to sign Sancho, there's a growing feeling from the Juventus end that the player himself wants to go to Chelsea.
Okay.
Now, one source has indicated Chelsea prefer to sign him permanently, though all options are being explored, whereas Juventus, all they can do is a loan deal, a straight loan deal. United would also prefer to sell Sancho, but a loan deal cannot be ruled out either. Chelsea's move for Sancho, though, this is where it gets a little bit difficult, is likely to depend on them offloading players, notably Raheem Sterling, who is one of the players that they do want to offload. He's not got a future at Chelsea. Enzo Maresca has effectively said that. Now, Chelsea are trying to find agreements with various clubs to put to Raheem Sterling and say, we've got agreements with club X, Y and Z. Which one do you want to speak to and which one do you want to sort? He's not getting involved in that side of it at the moment. Chelsea are taking it upon themselves to try and sort out his future. Now, United are understood to be one of those clubs and are open to the idea of Sterling coming to Manchester United. However, they will allow, and this is where it is crucial, they will allow Jadon Sancho to leave Manchester United regardless of whether Raheem Sterling comes to Manchester United or not, because they feel that they are well stocked in the forward areas. So if Jadon Sancho goes, he's not been in the matchday squad. So you're replacing someone who's not in the matchday squad, effectively. However, because Raheem Sterling has been offered, it's kind of just pricked their ears up a bit and thought, this is an interesting deal to potentially do. Hence why they might be open to the idea of Raheem Sterling coming from Chelsea to Manchester United. Now, discussions over Sancho's personal terms are continuing with Juve and with Chelsea. Juventus's terms, though, are slightly complicated because they would require in any deal for Manchester United to pay a significant portion of Jadon Sancho's high wages, because it was going to be a loan deal. And so if United were to consider Juventus, you would expect the loan fee to be quite a substantial one to be able to compensate for some of the wages that they would be contributing. Sancho, though, has effectively got 3 years left on his contract. That means a loan can't be ruled out, simply because if they allow him to go on loan, he plays regularly for Juventus, for example, plays well for them, he'll come back with 2 years left on his contract at United and maybe a higher market valuation. Overall, just to give you an overall view on this, the easiest deal would be Juventus, because it would just be a straight loan, no other clubs involved.
All right.
That would be for United's perspective. Ideally for Chelsea, what they would want to do is to bring Sancho to Stamford Bridge and Sterling would go to Manchester United, because they would just be dealing with one club. However, if they try to get Sancho and Sterling doesn't want to go to United, or United don't want Sterling but they find another club, then you have that scenario when you're trying to buy a house, when you're now suddenly in a chain. Now, if one of those chains break, then all of it could go.
It collapses.
It could do. So that's why Chelsea would, in an ideal scenario, Raheem would like you to go to United because we want to bring Jadon Sancho into the club. All options seem to be open at the moment, including Sterling staying at Chelsea, including Sancho staying at Manchester United.
Goodness me, that would be a story. Sterling staying there and picking up his wages. Rather large ones as well. OK, stay with us. Plenty still to come on the Transfer Show. Could Kingsley Coman be heading to the Premier League? We'll tell you which Premier League club are showing interest in him next. welcome back. Let's go straight to James, because you've got some breaking news from Celtic.
Yeah, the Scottish champions Celtic, they are very close now to making a signing, a replacement for Matt O'Reilly. Augsburg midfielder Arne Engels has agreed a 4-year deal with Celtic. Revealed earlier today that Celtic agreed an £11 million fee for the 20-year-old. This is a Celtic record transfer fee they're spending on a single player. Due to undergo a medical tomorrow and finalise the paperwork. It's understood Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers was pushing strongly for the club to sign Engels this summer. The Belgium under-21 international, identified as the #1 target to replace Matt O'Reilly, who left for Brighton last week. It's believed the Hoops are always prepared to break their record transfer fee to get him. So those disappointed about losing Matt O'Reilly, you're now very close to getting a replacement for him. Hopefully have a similar impact to what Matt O'Reilly had for Celtic over the course of the last few years.
Yeah, that'd be good news for Celtic. Let's talk Arsenal. Darmish, they want to add a winger, is that right?
Well, listen, yesterday we told you on Sky Sports News that Kingsley Coman was the subject of a number of clubs' interest. Barcelona had inquired, but it's difficult for them to do a deal because of their finances. Al Hilal had actually made an offer, and a substantial offer as well, to Bayern Munich. And I said there was an unnamed Premier League club who made inquiries and explored the condition of a deal. And that club, we understand now, is Arsenal. It's understood they want to bring in a winger to provide more competition for the likes of Gabriel Martinelli and Bukayo Saka. And it's something they may act upon in the final hours of the transfer window. Kingsley Coman, for his part, wants to assess all of his options.
Okay.
Staying at Bayern Munich has not been ruled out.
All right, thanks for that, Darms. What about stay with Arsenal, because we broke this exclusively yesterday, didn't we, Mark? I know you're on your phone, but you've got to listen to me as well.
I'm listening. I can do two things at once, but only when I'm sat at this desk.
Look, the goalkeeper, Aaron Ramsdale, what's needed to wrap this deal up with Southampton then?
Just official confirmation. Like you said, exclusive deal for Sky Sports News yesterday. It's a permanent move as well, where a lot of people were expecting it to be a loan. £18 million as guaranteed payments. £1 million if Southampton stay in the Premier League, and a further £6 million, making a total package of £25 million. Russell Martin's #1 target, Aaron Ramsdale. We know he's a top-class goalkeeper.
Yes,
started his medical this morning. We understand that's almost all completed, just waiting for official confirmation. But Russell Martin with a new goalkeeper.
Just picking up on that, Arsenal continue to work on recruiting a goalkeeper if and when, as we expect, Aaron Ramsdale's move to Southampton becomes official. It's understood Espanyol's Juan Garcia is someone they've shown an interest in. Wolves' Dan Bentley is someone that they had an interest in earlier on in this transfer window. Ideally, we think that Arsenal want to bring in at least one goalkeeper. And bringing in two keepers has not been ruled out, because remember, earlier in the transfer window, one of their goalkeepers, Karl Hein, he went to Real Valladolid on a season-long loan. OK, what about Eddie Nketiah then? Outgoings from Arsenal. Is he a Chelsea? Not a Chelsea, goodness me, sorry.
They're looking for a number 9, not that one. Crystal Palace finalising that deal now for Eddie Nketiah to join Crystal Palace. Now, a £25 million fee up front, $5 million in add-on, a really significant fee in terms of outgoing for Arsenal, but a really talented player for Crystal Palace to have. I'll be at their training ground tomorrow, finalising the paperwork now. Perhaps we'll have that announcement tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon perhaps, at the training ground, because they'll be desperate to register in time to feature this weekend, and they take on Chelsea, who are looking for a number 9.
They are. That's why it's in my head. Right. OK, let's stick with you then, James, because what about Manchester United? Incomings, Manuel Ugarte. Is he on his way in?
Yeah, he's had his medical today. He's completed his medical today. All being well, he'll sign off on personal terms for a long-term contract at Manchester United. Their 5th major summer signing. It's been a really important summer of backing Erik ten Hag. They've done that. United confident they'll register him in time. That midday deadline tomorrow, that's a crucial deadline tomorrow, to register him in time to be part of that squad to take on Liverpool in the Super Sunday game. United will pay PSG an initial €50 million plus €10 million in performance-related add-ons.
OK, Mark, we've seen some outgoings, haven't we? Some lovely pictures in Naples. Scott McTominay arriving to a hero's welcome.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. It's great to see. And when you've been at Manchester United since the age of 5, 22 years, and you've got a big decision to make and going to a different country, this is the kind of welcome you want.
Yeah.
Because it probably fills in with a real confidence booster that this was the right opportunity and the right chance for me. And he's arrived at the airport thanks to Sky in Italy, who captured these brilliant pictures. We know that he's signed a significant deal there, and it brings to the end what's been a brilliant Manchester United career. Fans absolutely love him. He was huge for Ten Hag last season, and yeah, that's a £21 million deal with £4.2 million in add-ons should it happen. And I think he even gives fans a little thumbs up as he gets in the van there.
Once he's safe in the van.
Welcome. What a welcome, and great to see there. Really, really nice pictures there.
Give a wave, and he does look.
There he is.
Brilliant, and a thumbs up. So I'm fine after being mobbed by you all. What about Billy Gilmour? Will he enjoy those pictures and want to join his Scotland teammate?
Well, everyone wants a welcome like that when you join a club, don't you? But Billy Gilmour, who was sensational for Brighton against Manchester United at the weekend, I was there for that game. He was the man of the match. Napoli had been trying to sign him in this transfer window, but for two reasons. I think, A, Billy Gilmour's performance level the other day, but also Matt O'Reilly's injury, who I just mentioned, means it's very unlikely that Billy Gilmour will be going to Napoli. It's very likely he stays at Brighton in this transfer window. And Fabian Hertz, we spoke to him earlier on this morning on Sky Sports News, he hinted that Gilmour would stay at his press conference. So I think it's very unlikely that it'll be part of this point anyway.
All right, brilliant from you all so far. Plenty more still to come on the Transfer Show. News from all 20 Premier League clubs in our wrap next.
Welcome back for the last time of this transfer window. It's time to go round the clubs, Mark. Here is your bite-sized Premier League roundup. Who are we starting with?
I think we'll start with Arsenal, and they are one of a number of clubs who have explored the conditions of a deal for Bayern Munich winger Kingsley Coman. It's understood bringing in a winger to provide more competition for the likes of Gabriel Martinelli and Bukayo Saka is something Arsenal may act upon in the final hours of the window.
Aston Villa striker John Duran looks highly likely to stay at the club. Chelsea were interested.
Bournemouth are focused on allowing players to leave between now and tomorrow's deadline. However, they have always been active on deadline day.
Yeah, you'll be there tomorrow outside in the car park. Thomas Frank wouldn't comment on Ivan Toney's future at Brentford, but confirmed he won't play against Southampton, even if he stays beyond tomorrow's deadline.
New Brighton signing Matt O'Reilly is to have surgery on the injury he sustained just 6 minutes into his debut. Billy Gilmour is likely to stay despite interest from Napoli.
The clock is ticking for Victor Osimhen to decide if he wants to move to Chelsea or not. Chelsea also remain in talks to sign Jadon Sancho from Manchester United.
Crystal Palace, Maxence Lacroix, has completed his Palace medical ahead of an £18 million move from Wolfsburg.
Sean Dyche is hopeful of signing Oral Mangala from Lyon before tomorrow's deadline. Everton also working on a deal that will see Neil Maupay leave the club.
Marco Silva says Fulham are prioritising signing a winger heading into the final day of the window.
Ipswich not expected to pursue a deal for Chelsea forward Armando Broja after the move breakdown due to an issue with his medical. A move was agreed last week on an initial loan with an obligation to buy for a club record £30 million if Ipswich stayed up.
Bilal El Khanous has had the first part of his medical at Leicester City today. That's after the club agreed a £19 million deal to sign the attacking midfielder from Genk. Steve Cooper is also still in the market for a goalkeeper.
We heard from this man at the top of the show. Liverpool have signed Federico Chiesa from Juventus in a deal worth £12.5 million.
It looks set to be a quiet deadline day at Manchester City, with Pep Guardiola happy with his business so far this summer.
Manuel Ugarte has completed his Manchester United medical ahead of a £50.7 million move from PSG. Scott McTominay is in Naples ahead of his move to Napoli.
Newcastle are set to walk away from their long-running pursuit of Mark Gahey after growing tired of negotiating with Crystal Palace. Newcastle had offered a club record $65 million with $5 million in add-ons for the England international, but Palace owner Steve Parish has so far refused to accept the offer.
Will that change tomorrow? Nottingham Forest have had a bid rejected by Liverpool for Kevin Kelleher. The offer was below the goalkeeper's valuation and they are unwilling sellers.
Southampton are not expected to sign Corinthian striker Yuri Alberto before the deadline. Alberto has travelled with Corinthians ahead of their Copa do Brasil fixture.
I won't ask you who they're playing. Focus at Tottenham is outgoing. Giovanni Lo Celso and Sergio Reguilon could leave before tomorrow night's deadline.
West Ham have been open to offers for the likes of Nathan Gerd, Maxwell Cornet and even James Ward-Prowse, but as it stands, they all seem to be staying at the club.
And this just in, Sam Johnson has completed his Wolves medical ahead of a £10 million move from Crystal Palace.
Meanwhile, Mo Salah has told us he's just focusing on football this season and not worrying about a new contract. Salah is one of 3 key players who've entered the final year of their deals at Anfield, including the captain, Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I think with the time you get more wisdom, I would say.
Wise?
Wise. You get more wise. So I think I just came before the season. I was like, okay, I have 1 year left, so just let's enjoy it. Don't think about the contract now. Don't think about anything, and I really just enjoy. I don't want to think about next year. I don't want to think about the future. Just okay, let's enjoy the last year and we'll see.
You're just thinking about how you can be at your best.
Yeah,
at Old Trafford
every
this
week.
weekend.
That's the most important thing. Just take one day at a time, and just be grateful to be here, and that's it.
Well, despite their financial difficulties, Everton could be one of the busiest clubs on deadline day. Neil Maupay is closing in on his move to Marseille on an initial loan with a mandatory buyout clause for next season. This is what Sean Dyche had to say on his potential exits.
There's a possible situation where he'll be leaving the club. There's nothing guaranteed yet, but he will be travelling over and seeing if that deal can happen.
You were pretty open last week about the sort of budgetary restrictions coming towards the end of the window. With the potential departure of Neil Maupay, does that mean you're more confident potentially bringing more players in?
Not necessarily. I mean, the money is absorbed into the club in different ways, so we'll have to wait and see. And it's not just money, you understand, it's the availability at this late stage of the window. You know, who's out there, who could be done, who might not be able to be done, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, that'll be coming at us as it does, sort of thing. When we've got a chance to operate, we will.
So, Maupay's time at Everton looking like it's coming to an end. To say it didn't work out, would that be an understatement?
I think it didn't quite work from an Everton perspective. He did work at Brentford when he was on loan there last season. He only scored, I think, 8 goals in all competitions, but they're important goals he scored for Brentford as they fought against relegation. Was really impressive for Brighton, had a really good spell there as well. But in terms of what Everton got, it wasn't quite the player that they wanted. But for Neil Maupay, I think he's absolutely delighted about a fresh challenge now, heading back to France. He's going to join Marseille from Everton, a deal worth £6 million. And Darmesh, when you saw social media today, he posted it. I think he was quite happy about it, wasn't he?
Oh, this is one of my favourite films. It's actually, you know, when you get asked what's your number one film?
Oh, yeah, I'm with you.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Brilliant film.
And it was like he was escaping. It was that scene when Andy Dufresne was leaving the prison. That was my Morgan Freeman.
I thought that Morgan Freeman was coming. I didn't actually
thanks
think
a lot.
That was it. You're usually really good at your impressions as well, but you need to work on it.
Oh, thanks, yeah.
That's OK. What about West Ham, then? Do you know what? We're moving on so quickly. West Ham, Dams, one of the busiest this summer. Actually, a lot of people saying actually done the best window, but we can talk about that in detail tomorrow. Are we expecting any movement on final day, though, for
Yeah, I've just got a two-word text saying Zuma close. That means Kurt Zuma's close to finalising his move from West Ham United to the Saudi Pro League side, Al Aruba. He's completed his medical, now finalising terms. He will move on an initial loan. With West Ham, we think contributing a small portion of his wages because he's into the final year of his contract. And I think the issues with his medical that were evident before that scuppered a move to the UAE club, Shabab Al Ali, they're not the issues that Al Aruba have found. So I think they might have used that just to say, look, we don't want to do this as a permanent deal. We don't think there should be a transfer fee involved. So we want to do a loan. Can you contribute? So once that loan period is ended, he will effectively be a free agent. So I think it will save West Ham United money on what are substantial wages for Kurt Zouma. As for incomings, they're still interested in bringing in the PSG midfielder Carlos Soler. Willingness from all parties still to do a deal. However, it seems the focus in the final few hours for West Ham United is going to be on outgoings. We think they're open to listening to offers for the likes of Maxwell Cornet, for Naif Aguerd, for James Ward-Prowse as well. Now, as it stands, they will stay at the club. James Ward-Prowse started their EFL Cup win against Bournemouth last night, and Aguerd and Cornet both were training with the first team this morning.
All right. We were going to go to a break, but you have a little line, I think, Mark, from Bournemouth.
Yeah, this is not directly related to football players, but one of a transfer of a different kind. And it's some breaking news, actually, because in the last few moments, AFC Bournemouth have confirmed that long-standing chief executive Neil Blake is to take on a new role at Black Knight Football Club, which is the parent company to AFC Bournemouth. He's been at the club since 2009 and has been a huge part of the transformation at AFC Bournemouth, rising from League Two to the Premier League. And with this new appointment, Neil will help oversee Black Knight Football Club's multi-club model. And he talks about some of the other clubs that they're working with. And then the statement finishes. Everyone at AFC Bournemouth would like to wish Neil all the best in his new role and look forward to continuing to work with him in his new capacity. And I've just got to say, Neil Blake has been one of the key figures at AFC Bournemouth since 2009. When they got into the Championship, when they got into the Premier League, all the deals that get done behind the scenes, and he has run that club very, very astutely. And Bill Foley, the new American owner, wouldn't have purchased a club that was run in a bad way. Financially, it was very sound despite relegation. And when you look at the club, 8 years of the last 10 have been in the Premier League, which is quite astonishing when you look at other clubs that struggle to come up and stay. Big breaking news out of AFC Bournemouth on the eve of deadline day.
Well done, Mark. Good inside knowledge there. Right, OK, still plenty to come on the transfer show. Next, we're going to bring you the rest of the day's news. And these three here will predict who will be the busiest on deadline day. Yes, you will. Thank you. Welcome back. We are going to talk all things busiest clubs, basically, I think, is the final part of this end of this show. Who's going to be the busiest tomorrow, do you think, James? I'm guessing Chelsea?
Well, Chelsea looking for a number 9, but also Chelsea looking to offload a number of first-team players who aren't currently training with the first team. Lukaku confirms Napoli. We've seen that today. Kepa moved to Bournemouth on a season-long loan. He signed a contract extension at Chelsea as well, just to protect his value.
I think that's a great deal, by the way. Kepa going on loan to...
Well, it would be. He'll probably step in eventually and be the number 1, you'd think. Yeah. That's why Bournemouth have got him in. Armando Broja not going to Ipswich now, it doesn't seem. So will he get a move in the next 24 hours or so? Stuttgart, they've inquired about a loan deal for Trevor Chalobah. We know he's not training with the first team, didn't go out on the pre-season tour either. No minutes for him this season, it doesn't seem. And the same for Ben Chilwell. He's been told he can leave, but nothing seems imminent at this stage. So could that be something which ends up turning into something bigger tomorrow? Will he get a move? Because it looks like he's not going to get any minutes this season if he stays.
Mark, who do you think is going to be busy tomorrow?
I think Nottingham Forest.
Really?
Yeah, Rob Dorset is our senior reporter, will be down outside the training ground tomorrow. We've seen it before on deadline day. Marinakis likes to get involved. Ross Wilson, the sporting director, active and busy. I think they could do maybe 3 or 4. No pressure. That's just a bit of a hunch there.
He does like to do, like you say.
I think they could be the busiest team tomorrow.
What about you, Dharma Sheth?
I think it's going to be a really busy deadline day overall, and one probably that we didn't expect, but now it looks like there might be a bit of business happening, is Arsenal. In that, Aaron Ramsdale, if and when that gets confirmed, probably tomorrow, we do know that Arsenal will be in the market then to bring in at least 1 goalkeeper, probably 2. So they could be making 2 signings there. And now, this is gathering pace a little bit, the winger situation. They really want to reinforce it. I know a lot of Arsenal fans are thinking Eddie Nketiah on his way to Crystal Palace. Are Arsenal going to sign a striker? It seems to be the same question every single transfer window.
Yes.
But it seems like they want to reinforce in the winger position. And if someone like Kingsley Coman, who they have been exploring conditions of a deal for, was to come, what a signing that could potentially be. Yeah,
that would be good news for the lovely man I met in Urban Outfitters yesterday. He was an Arsenal fan, and that's exactly what he wanted. He wanted a main striker coming in. Anyway, so there you go. Best deal. Who's made the best deal so far this window, Mark McAdam?
Do you know what? I think I'm excited about Eva Nilsson at Bournemouth. Brazil international, 40 million record buy for the club. I think he could be one to watch. I think at Ramsdale at Southampton as well, that could be superb. Exactly what Russell Martin wants, and I think he will galvanise that group in what will be a really tough campaign. They'll probably be down the bottom of the table, but he could be the perfect injection to that dressing room they need.
What about you, Jim?
Emil Smith-Rowe feels like a great bit of business for Arsenal as well, getting that amount of money for a player who wasn't part of the first-team plans. But you've already seen his last game for Fulham, scoring that goal. He's such a brilliant player. Let's hope he stays fit, because he's going to have a brilliant career moving forward if he can stay fit. Fulham have got a great player, great bit of business for them. And I think Man United must be really pleased. 5 signings they're going to make in this window, which I think, considering the business they've done in recent years, feels like they put themselves in the best possible position to compete again.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What about you?
I mean, signing-wise, Calafiori is probably up there. Came with a great reputation, played fantastically well at the Euros. For a club, I go a little bit left field, and I would say Ipswich Town will be pretty pleased, because I think the way they've done their business, they've signed a lot of players, but they've signed players that they know. They've signed players that some would say, well, are they Championship or are they Premier League? They'll give it a go in the Premier League, but if it isn't to work out for Ipswich, they look like they'll have a squad that can bring them straight back up.
Yeah, OK. You're at Southampton and Bournemouth. You're at Selhurst
Crystal
Park,
Palace,
down the road
couple of
from
bits
me.
of business to be done.
And you're with me. Till it shuts.
Lucky you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Deadline day. Why would you go anywhere else? Throw a sickie. We don't care.
Wow.
From 7 a.m. tomorrow, right through till it shuts at 11. Stay with us.